Welcome to Conversations from the Edge of Consciousness. I'm your host, Christine Madera. For me, and possibly for you, the inner world of consciousness has always been much more real and way more fun than the so-called real material world. Growing up, I thought I was alone in this, but I'm not. There are a lot of us, and far too many have no one to talk to who shares this experience. I've been lucky to cultivate a community of friends who love to talk about the energies, ideas, and vibrations that are pushing the edges of our own consciousness, as well as our collective consciousness. In Conversations from the Edge, we share our conversations with you. Welcome to Conversations from the Edge. This is your host, Christine Madera, and we are back today with Renée Garcia. And Renée is a lifelong entrepreneur and has that entrepreneurial motto, which is like, knowledge without application is merely entertainment. It's not just about knowing stuff, it's about doing stuff. And this is so true. Renée is a certified reality transurfing instructor and an alternative space adventurer. And both of these are endorsed by Vadim Zeland, a former Russian quantum physicist and the author and creator of Reality Transurfing, which is a phenomenal body of work. And Renée herself has used reality transurfing to transform failure into success, poverty into abundance, sickness into healing, and a really bleak perspective into one brimming with joy and magic. She uses this practical methodology to also find a fulfilling, purposeful life and connect with the highest version of herself and create the life that she truly desires to live. She now empowers her rapidly growing community around the world to do the same with these same ideas. And she developed the only English language reality transurfing instructional program officially approved by founder Vadim Zeland. This training serves as the backbone for the International Transurfing Institute, which she founded in 2016, and that you're going to want to check it out if you have not already by the time that you've started this. So welcome, Renée. It's wonderful to have you back.
Thank you so much. I love the ability to dive in a little deeper and do a second one of these so we can really just get into some of the meat on the bone, because that's where the benefit is, really. And I think that even just a conversation can help people to realize that there's an alternative way.
Yeah, because most of what we have been taught is ineffective. Like, it's effective for some people, so those become the standard, but it's not necessarily effective for everybody else because we've been taught, various levels of things to do that are really not all that helpful. And so, I wanted to really dive into a particular concept in reality transurfing that I think reality transurfing gives us a different model than what is the popular model now when it comes to things like manifesting. So there's all kinds of stuff out there about manifesting and about holding your intention and about doing all of these different kinds of things that are supposed to create from our thought and give us what we want. If you look at manifesting on Google or on YouTube, there's hundreds of thousands or millions of entries, and yet there's a small amount of success with that, but there's not a huge amount. And I think a lot of it has to do with the focus of that manifestation work, which is this inner churning about always like thinking about and pondering about and churning through what it is that you want to manifest. And that's not actually the most effective way to create something new. And reality transurfing has, or healthy. No, it's not. But reality transurfing has a whole different approach to it. And I think it's really important. So talk a little bit about how it approaches manifestation and how much easier it is with reality transurfing.
Oh God, this is such a huge topic. And I know in our last podcast, I said, I feel kind of like, sometimes I'm a heretic of sorts, getting up and speaking against all the common beliefs. But, the reality of it is, no pun intended, when you Google manifestation and hundreds of thousands of hits pop up, well, why isn't everybody manifesting
Yeah.
what they want then, right? Why isn't the Lamborghini in everyone's driveway? Why
Mm-hmm.
isn't the house fully paid for? Transurfing offers an answer for that, right? And this is what I love about transurfing so much is not only does it tell you how to do it, it
Mm-hmm.
tells you why the common mode of doing it isn't working,
Mm-hmm.
and well, at first let me state that instead of saying manifest in the transurfing modality, we say
Right.
materialize,
Okay.
because we essentially transfer ourselves, or transfer ourselves to that
Mm-hmm.
version of reality where the presence of that thing actually materializes, rather than trying to quote unquote manifest it in our current
Mm-hmm.
reality, which is what most people are
Yes.
doing, right? So
Yes.
so the faulty logic that is happening with the law of attraction, or the secret, or these different modalities that are teaching manifestation practices. Well, a number of things are happening, but the first thing that's happening is you're almost being asked to declare to yourself what's missing in your life,
Yeah.
right? Not where you want to go,
Mm-hmm.
but what's missing. It's you're approaching it from a standpoint that's already messed up to begin with, right? What's
Yeah.
missing? What's missing? There's a hole. Something's missing.
Yeah. And
And
you're
then
just validating the reality that you're experiencing.
you're validating the reality that you're experiencing, and what you're doing, and I've been guilty of this in the past for myself, is you're loading up whatever it is that you're looking to obtain with a bunch of importance, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're saying this thing's missing and I want this thing, and I
Yeah.
don't have this thing, and I want this thing. And essentially what that tells your reality is that you're not complete, your life's not complete, something's
Mm-hmm.
missing, you've 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 been unsuccessful. And this is where the law of attraction, I like to joke, it's not really the nicest joke, but I like to say that reality transurfing is like the law of attraction for smart people. Here's the thing, I know a couple
Mm-hmm.
of people. There's a guy in India that has a couple of law of attraction Facebook groups,
Mm-hmm.
and he loves reality transurfing. I've introduced him to it, but he's gained amazing success
Mm-hmm.
with the law of attraction. He's a law of attraction guy, and he's actually tapped into doing it the right way. And he tries
Yeah.
to help people, do it the right way. But the problem is the law of attraction is so overblown, and there's no real modality there. There's no
Mm-hmm.
real instructors. There's no real body of knowledge that you can really it's not comprehensive. It's some points that could lead you to success if you happen to really understand how that success is gained in that context,
Yeah,
which
because it's like
very
an instruction manual without really
without
the
instruction.
energy, yeah, because it gives you an A, B, C, and D, but the transformation doesn't come from A, B, C, and D. It comes from that like synergistic force that really brings it all together, that you can't really teach that. It's not taught through the law of attraction. But some people naturally have that, and so they find the law of attraction and it works for them because that other piece is already in place. And reality transurfing brings in this other piece and teaches
Yes.
about that so that you can cultivate this other piece and don't have to worry about it, that if it does or doesn't already exist within you.
That's a good way of putting it. For everyone else that doesn't have this other piece,
Mm-hmm.
they end up just feeling like crap
Yeah.
because they're not able to do it. They're doing something wrong. Oh, I guess I'm not powerful enough to do it. I'm not doing it
Mm-hmm.
right. I'm not
I need to
smart
fix
enough. I'm not
myself.
something. Yes. And this is where law of attraction actually becomes damaging to the individual, because they leave from the quote unquote modality feeling worse off than when they found it,
Yeah.
right? And this is where a lot of people give up on the idea. It's kind of sad actually that the law of attraction is in the forefront, because people try that out and then manifestation, I don't know how to do it, it doesn't work for me, and then they kind of give up on the whole genre altogether.
Yeah.
Whereas if you stick with it and you happen to find reality transurfing, and maybe you've got a little bit of a base of knowledge of law of attraction, then reality transurfing comes in and sort of provides a whole new meaning to what the law of attraction actually means. And I'm not saying law of attraction as in the modern modality of it, but the actual law of attraction.
Okay, so
do you understand what I'm saying?
I do, yeah. So talk a little bit about that and how the inner and outer work together in reality transurfing in a way that's missing from our kind of our popular culture law of attraction.
Okay, so the law of attraction is what we believe to be, in the transurfing modality, outer intention. So there's two modes of operation, if you will. There's inner intention and outer intention. So the word intention's kind of weird, and I think this throws a lot of people off. You could say, just for the sake of this conversation and those that are new to the modality, to make it a little bit easier, I could say inner action and outer action.
Okay.
For inner energy versus outer energy.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Right? So where most people are working from, and this is why I consider myself an expert in this, in these two topics, is because this is how I gained success in my pre-transurfing reality, was using inner intention, inner energy, inner action. So like I said in our previous podcast, I grew up poverty level. I dropped out of high school. I'm not educated. And I knew that I wanted something bigger and better for myself. But I believed, since I wasn't well connected and I didn't have, startup money to do my own thing, and I wasn't educated, that I was going to have to work really hard.
Yeah, that's what we're all taught. Yes.
You got to work really hard. And, to a certain extent, sometimes you do just have to work really hard to get something off the ground, right? Your world isn't always going to just lay everything out for you, every time, to just tap into perfectly, where like you don't, I'm not trying to advocate against hard work, right?
Yeah, but there's a difference between working really hard as its own virtue and working really hard to actually create something. Because oftentimes we get stuck, and I hear this, like they interview people on TV and say, about hard work, and oh yeah, hard work is what gets people where they're going. And these are people who've been working hard all their life and they don't have anything, but they still believe in the virtue of hard work as its own virtue. And that's a really destructive thing, because you can work hard your entire life and never have anything. And you watch these guys that have tons of money and they're spending 3 days or 3 afternoons a week on the golf course, because they're able to do deals on a golf course without working hard. And so it's working hard is not its own virtue. It's a means to an end, as long as the end is part of the process and it's not its own thing.
Well, and working hard, somebody made a post on a comment on the Facebook group yesterday, the International Transurfing Institute Facebook group, that I was
Mm-hmm.
the hardest working person that they know, right? That I made
Mm-hmm.
650 videos on YouTube in the last year, and I've networked like crazy, and I've built this team, and I've traveled the world meeting people for transurfing. And it's true, I am quote unquote working hard,
Mm-hmm.
but the difference between this working hard and the
Mm-hmm.
working hard that I did pre-transurfing is that all I'm really doing now is answering the calls, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not trying to make anything happen. Somebody comes
Yeah.
to me and says, hey, why don't we get you booked on podcasts? Or, hey, have you thought about doing a teaching course? Or,
Mm-hmm.
hey, I want to be a certified instructor. Is that something that I can do? Right. And then I show up for that. And yes, I've got an incredible work ethic, but what I'm doing is I'm fueling that
Mm-hmm.
outer call,
Yes.
that outer energy that is flowing right up to me, requesting something of me. I'm fueling that request
Mm-hmm.
with a pretty intense amount of energy from my own end, but it's energy that is free flowing and feels really good and really powerful to give, and
Mm-hmm.
it does not exhaust me, right? It's passion for the thing. And this is the difference between the two modes of operation that I've seen success with. I saw some success with what is now considered popular, this
Mm-hmm.
hustle culture, this grind culture,
Mm-hmm.
this kind of like, I love Gary V and Tom Bilyeu and a lot of these like really loud entrepreneurs on social media, but
Mm-hmm.
they are promoting this sort of like, you gotta really apply
Yeah.
force to see results. It's David Hawkins, Dr. David Hawkins'
Mm-hmm.
book, Force versus Power.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So
Yes,
there's the
absolutely.
force, and then there's working with power and not trying to force your reality to do something.
Yeah.
And the law of attraction, in the modern sense of the term and the modality, they're like, you want that Lamborghini, you gotta force it, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's applying a bunch of importance and using the inner will or the ego
Mm-hmm.
to try to facilitate results.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Versus that flowing with the energy of life as it's flowing. And for me, I call it the invitation system. That when you're operating via invitation, like when somebody comes to you and says, hey, have you thought about teaching a course like this? You're like, huh, all right. Well, and then it's kind of an invitation forward to consider that and move toward it. But it's finding those, or it's moving with the flow, like surfing the
Yes.
flow of energy as it's coming, and as it's coming to you and inviting you forward, instead of trying to kind of, well, there's a river here somewhere, I'm just going to keep digging a trench until the river appears, and then hopefully it'll carry me forward.
Yeah.
Because yeah, that other way, that hard work way, it doesn't work as a means to an end, unless it's attached to something that's calling you forward, that outer intention or outer energy. And that's a really hard concept for a lot of people, because we're so taught, especially as Americans and in the West, we're really taught that we're the master of our own destiny, and that we
Yeah.
have to make it happen. And in my experience, if you're trying to make it happen yourself, it doesn't work. But if you are operating like as one with life, if you're
Yeah.
operating in that, I call it sometimes a call and response system with life,
Yes.
that's what's actually moving you forward, but it operates much differently than how we've been taught to do it with the law of attraction, which is why I think reality transurfing is like nails it.
Yeah. Yeah. And the thing that I've realized in my 6 years of working with this knowledge is that oftentimes, almost all the time, my external world
Mm-hmm.
has not only much easier plans on how to get from point
Mm-hmm.
A to point B, but oftentimes when I arrive at point B, it's even better than
Yes.
what my limited thinking mind
Mm-hmm.
um, perceived the end result to be. And the way of getting there, when I release and go with what we call the alternatives flow,
Mm-hmm.
it's like, oh my God, I wish I would have, how different things could have been in the past had I let go a little bit more. I mean, I'm happy that I didn't now because I can tell people about my experience, right? I mean,
Right. Yeah.
rising to a position that I did with sheer inner intention, from the place that I started, it was beyond painful. But it's like I have it all to lay out for everyone. Like this is these are the two modes. Which one sounds and looks like a better time, right? So
Mm-hmm.
it's really about accepting that what you're talking about with the Western culture and that we have to drive our own success and all that stuff. Accepting first that there is another way. And this is mind-blowing. This is
Mm-hmm.
mind-blowing. This is like, and a lot of people just won't believe it, right? Because
Yeah.
that system is so ingrained and so programmed in. It takes a little bit of time, and I still find myself once in a while inner intentioning things, as I like to say, inner intentioning the hell out of my reality. But I can
Uh-huh.
stop myself and say, if you don't do this right now and you let go, you're going to get there in an easier way, and the result's going to be better than what your limited thinking mind.
So if you were to put this together like as a little for somebody to follow along to see how this might work and how they might do this in their own system, like what would be your little, and I hate to say the word formula, but
Yeah.
I guess I'm going to say the word formula so that people can try to follow this through for themselves.
Okay, so I've got a little analogy that
Okay.
that helps people understand what the hell we're even talking about, that are challenged to understand it. Because I'll be honest with you, I'll be totally honest. I met Vadim Zeeland. I decided that I wanted to bring this knowledge to the world. I started working on my body of work that I've been working on for 5 years now, which is a manual to help practically apply this stuff. And when I
Mm-hmm.
got to the outer intention and inner intention chapters, I still had a lot of confusion about it.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't until a couple years later it really started to kick in and I started to understand what it was.
Mm-hmm.
And then I realized that I needed a way to very easily explain it to other people, because if the old program is embedded as deeply as it was embedded in me, that
Mm-hmm.
there's going to be a little bit of a challenging time even understanding what it is we're talking about. So the
Yeah.
first hurdle is to understand the difference between inner intention versus outer intention. So this is my little analogy.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say you're in a foreign city on vacation. You're staying at a hotel
Mm-hmm.
and you wake up in the morning and you call room service and you say, can I have some coffee sent up to my room? And they say, oh, we're sorry, we just ran out of coffee.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So there's two different ways that you could go about getting coffee. So the inner intention way is that you become agitated. How can a hotel run out of coffee? I need my morning coffee, right? I
Mm-hmm.
want my morning coffee. And then you put on your clothes and you walk out of the hotel and you go looking for a coffee shop, somewhat agitated and irritated, and you're actively seeking to find the coffee shop, right?
Mm-hmm.
And as
Yes.
you're walking through the streets, you're looking for that coffee shop and thinking about that cup of coffee, and you finally see a coffee shop, you walk in and you order your cup of coffee and you sit down and have your cup of coffee, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's gaining a cup of coffee via inner intention.
Okay. And that's
So
what we mostly would do. That's
that's
what
what
we
we
would
would
do because
mostly
we
do.
take charge. We go find our
Exactly.
coffee.
Yes, yes. So the outer intention way
Mm-hmm.
of getting coffee is you hang up from room service and you say, this is an opportunity to go explore the town a little bit, right?
Mm-hmm.
I get to go
Yeah.
see Paris in the morning or wherever you are, right? So you put on
Mm-hmm.
your clothes, you leave the hotel, and you decide that you're just going to go have a stroll. You've already placed your order for the coffee, right? You
Mm-hmm.
already know
Yes.
that you want the cup of coffee. You don't need to look for it, right? You don't need to
Right.
do
Yeah.
you don't need to do anything except move around your reality,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's the only thing that you need to do. So instead of going around and maybe ignoring sights like you did in the first situation,
Yes.
then you decide that you're just going to go for a stroll and enjoy your morning until you happen to see a cafe, right? You're not looking
Mm-hmm.
for anything. And in the meantime, in between that point A and point B, you just enjoy yourself. You're not agitated. You
Mm-hmm.
trust that the cafe is going to present itself, because why would it not?
That's right. Yes.
Right? Why would it
Yes.
not? And this part, why would it not,
Mm-hmm.
is huge,
It is.
huge, huge. Like, once you have sort of absorbed that, so many possibilities open up. It's unbelievable. Like, it's really, really unbelievable. So for me, with what I'm doing now with transurfing and what I'm growing, this
Mm-hmm.
is kind of like in the background running, rather than the inner intention mode that is my mind trying to figure out all the things that need to play out from point A to point B. How is this going to work? Well, what do I need? Well, what am I going to do? Well, who am I going to need to involve? Well, how much money is this going to cost? And all these things. And these are the things that
Yes.
people obsess over in a way that pushes them to give up on even trying to get to point B in the first place. They'll say, well, I can't figure out all those things in between, so I'm just going to give up because I can't see how it's going to work, right?
Yeah.
If you do the why would it not,
Yes. That's the key
yes, then
for
everything presents
many
itself
people.
in the right time and you just get to point B.
Well, and I think there's two kinds of people there they're talking about. So there's the people who would be like the take charge. I'm going to grab my wallet. I'm going to go find coffee. Dang it, because it's my right to have coffee. And I'll mow everybody down the street before I find my coffee because I need my caffeine. So there's those people and that may get, frustrated in the process that it's not working for them because they're in that driving track of trying to get it done and figuring out how it's all going to work. But then there's the other, and this is the spiritual group of people, right? This is where the spiritual community gets itself really screwed up, are the ones that say,
exactly what you're going to say, by the way.
yeah, okay. So the people that like, why shouldn't this happen? And in the spiritual community, those of us who've been doing healing work for years and years, it's like, well, I need to fix what's wrong with me that's blocking why, because I don't deserve it. I'm not, I'm not worthy of it. I don't fit into society anyway. And so things aren't working for me the right way. So if I heal myself enough, then things might work, but I'm always trying to heal myself so things don't
Yeah.
work. I mean, the why not it working, like that's so huge.
Yes.
And, one of the ways I think about this is that in every scenario where there is a conflict or a problem, what we call a quote unquote a problem, there are multiple solutions to that problem sitting right there within the whole thing that you probably cannot see, that are all part of the whole gestalt of the situation.
Totally.
It's not like a cause and then there's an effect that's somewhere out there that you have to create. It's all part of it. You just have to let it happen. And there was actually a time, and I tell this story, I probably told it on my podcast before, but if you haven't heard it, podcasters, this is still a good story. I was actually in Russia, Soviet Union, during the collapse.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, I was traveling alone. Well, part of the time I was with people, part of the time I was alone. I came in through the back door. I came in through China. So I'm not within tourists. I'm like, trying to piece together places to stay. And there's no restaurant except McDonald's in Moscow. So I was eating like, you know, vanilla ice cream in 30-degree weather and stuff because it was the only food I could find. But I was there, and at one point, I had two potential places to stay. I'd gotten to St. Petersburg on an early morning train, and got off and called one contact and said I can't take you for 3 days. Good luck. I'm like, oh shoot,
Oh.
and there's nothing there. Like there was the Waldorf Astoria, but I wasn't with tourists, so that wasn't even an option. And of course it was the Waldorf Astoria, and I was a backpacker, like on a shoestring budget. So that
Yeah,
wasn't
I
an
hear you.
option.
Yeah.
And I had another contact that was outside of the city that I just couldn't figure out how to get the trains and stuff. I thought, okay, that's just not working for me. And so I sat down and I'm like, okay, there's a solution to this. There is a place to stay for me tonight. There's something for the next 3 days that's available to me, but I don't know how to get there. There's nothing that I can do. Like, program A was not available because I was in a Russian speaking country. I'm in the Soviet Union. I'm kind of there in the back door. I'm kind of under the radar. I had nobody I could ask. I didn't speak Russian. All I could say was like, Nostrovia and I don't understand. Those are my two phrases. And so I sat there and I'm like, all right, how might this unfold for me? And I had the download. I kind of had the hit. Well, and I sort of made this agreement with the universe that this is my plan. I'm going to wait and I'm going to watch all these trains come in. I'm just going to hang out here. And somebody who looks like they speak English, I'm going to go up and talk to them and they're going to have the next step for me. That's my plan because I had no other plan. And so I sat there for, I don't know, 2-3 hours probably, maybe longer. And I'm watching. And these two guys got off and I thought, and I don't know why, it's kind of like you when you saw Reality Transurfing and went, woo, for you. And I was like, oh, those guys speak English. So I walked up to them and I said, do you speak English? And they're like, oh, yes, of course, we're Polish. We speak wonderful English. So I explained my problem. And they said, well, it's interesting because we're traveling with a group of American Aikido instructors and they're on the next train. So we're here first, but there was a woman who couldn't come at the last minute. They have a bed available. I'm sure they would let you have it for 3 days. And I'm like,
Don't you love it?
yeehaw.
Yeah.
So they came and they talked to him and they said, wonderful. I got to eat because they knew they had food already lined up. It was wonderful. I had a warm bed to sleep in. I had people to hang out with. I got to see things I wouldn't have been able to see otherwise because I just tagged along with them on their stuff. And had I tried to figure it out, I don't know what would have happened.
Yeah.
But it was that other way, that other path of knowing that there are multiple solutions to an issue.
Yeah, it's amazing. You nailed it. I mean, is this did you understand this before you found transurfing? I'm curious.
Well, I took that whole trip. I called it my faithcation at the time, but I took this trip. I had this experience when I was about 7 that I was like done with life. I was like, this place is insane. People are crazy. I don't understand why I'm here. I don't like it. And I told God or whatever, I said, if you don't give me a good reason why I should hang around, I'm done. I want to leave. And so I had this kind of download of this experience of unity consciousness that what I was intended to do was to show up and just allow life to flow, and that it would be a wonderful time. And I thought, oh, okay, I can do that. I can.
So you kind
I
of
had this.
you
Yeah,
had something there already that
I
you,
had a
yeah.
working model that I was trying to figure out. And I went on this trip specifically, by myself through China, through Russia at these, early 1990s. That was a pretty, by myself, an interesting time to find out how this worked. I mean, I went to places that I knew I would have no idea how things were supposed to work. I had no context because I wanted to learn how to trust that process.
Yeah.
So that's why I did it. And this was probably 8 or 9 weeks into this. So I had a lot of practice in the meantime. That was the biggest one, though, at that point, where I was like, I could be sleeping on the street tonight.
Yeah.
It's going to be 0 degrees.
Yeah. A number of things come up about your story for me. The first is, I heard a couple years ago that monks, Tibetan monks and Buddhist monks, for hundreds of years, for a long time, once you dedicated yourself, especially with the Tibetan Buddhist monks, once you dedicated yourself, that you were essentially living with what we're talking about here, outer intention or outer energy, providing for you only. So a monk was after committing to this lifestyle, would essentially just travel around the countryside, only a wooden bowl.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all that they would have. So this is outer intention, providing the monk with whatever it is he needs. The food goes into the bowl. A farmer gives him a barn to sleep in. A family gives him a bed one night, and it's just like that, right? And these ancient religions or more lifestyles understood the value and switching over to this mode of operation, a place where you have the ability to access higher information, right? The human mind is really a horrible place.
Well, it's amoral, and it takes in what it learns and it spits it back out to you as reality. So if you learn things that are ineffective, it's always going to be ineffective.
Totally. And the problem solving part that you touched on, this has been the biggest thing for me, is, coming to an understanding that I don't have to solve any problem. I don't have to waste any energy. And what transurfing really is, the nuts and bolts of the modality, is it's an energy management system that allows you to reserve high amounts of potent energy for yourself. So when you do encounter that door, right, that whatever it is, me seeing the words reality transurfing, that I could then use my aqueduct that are stored, as I move through the knowledge, I got more and more and more. But then I can channel it into something that's actually purposeful or meaningful for me, and see really powerful results. We lose so much energy trying to figure it out on our own, trying to figure out, where am I going to live, or how am I going to find the solution to this problem? And the solutions are already, and the opportunities are already flowing in your direction. The idea is that with these concepts, your awareness is heightened and your energy levels are restored. So as soon as that solution, or as soon as that door presents itself to you, you have the awareness to see it and the energy to move on it. And it's this combination, for me personally, that has created my success that I'm experiencing, right?
Well, it's so much easier than the alternative.
So much easier than well, so much easier than the alternative, and so much better.
Yeah.
The version of reality that my world creates, that I co-create with my world, is way better than the version of reality that I just create on my own.
Well, and that creating on your own that you touched on, is that a version of what reality transurfing terms importance? Because I want you to touch on that as well, because I think importance is the other thing that really trips people up, whether it's the importance of having to heal and, like, being this victim martyr in trying to
Yes.
become a good enough person to do this, or the importance of trying to control it, or the importance of churning through your own mind. But the terminology importance, I think, can be a little not apparent. So can you talk just for a moment on that, and how that can hijack the process?
I know I referenced Dr. David Hawkins in his book Power versus Force, Force versus Power, I believe.
Power versus Force.
Is it Power versus Force?
Yeah.
So that's sort of his book on inner and outer intention. And then his other book, Letting Go, is kind of the Bible on importance, right? There's two different types of importance. There's inner importance, and there's outer importance. So outer importance is an example, like you need to see something play out external to you in some sort of way, or you're going to be let down or disappointed, or feel as though you're lacking in some material gain. It could be, somebody longing for a romantic partner, or somebody not feeling that they have financial stability, or whatever it is, right?
Okay.
And deeming that important for an outcome or a result, right? Like I'm only going to be happy if I can find a husband this year and get pregnant.
Oh, so an external requirement that you have in order to fulfill something.
Exactly.
Okay.
Mainly it's a level of happiness, right?
Yeah.
That's why most people deem something important, is
Okay.
it affects their level of happiness. That's the external. Then there's the internal, right? And this is you placing too much emphasis on you needing to be a certain way, or it could be overemphasis of a shortcoming, right? So getting into that whole, like, well, I'm broken, right? So and I got to fix myself before I can go down this path of having this thing that I want.
Yeah.
In both scenarios, the importance acts as a repellent, really, for what it is you want. Importance, again, is externally, it's acknowledging lack, and internally, it's overemphasizing something within you that actually highlights it in a way to where you experience more of it, or you project it in a way to your external environment that it becomes more obvious to others. So basic insecurities, right? Let's say somebody has a lisp, or they feel insecure, or they're socially awkward, or something like that. And you think about it, right? Oh God, I don't want to go to this party because I'm socially awkward.
Yeah.
And then you show up to the party, and your thoughts are kind of consumed by the fact that you're socially awkward. So what happens is you appear really socially awkward to people.
Yeah. As a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Exactly. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. So inner importance is the self-fulfilling prophecy. You create that version of reality for yourself by overemphasizing that characteristic or quality. And in the external environment, you're overvaluing the presence or absence of something, and it's screwing with your ability to actually obtain it. This is why law of attraction doesn't work for most people,
because all that just gets in the way. It stops the attraction.
It stops the attraction. It's a repellent. It's like injecting the situation with a poison that almost
Yeah.
ensures that you're not going to get that thing.
Yeah. Because you can't see possibility if you're focused on limitation.
Exactly. Exactly. So what transurfing is presenting to us is that importance is kind of well, not kind of irrelevant. It is irrelevant, but its importance does not help you get the thing, resolve the internal issues, or whatever you're applying it to. It only keeps the thing from you. It doesn't actually have a positive attribute, and this is a big hurdle for a lot of Western thinking minds to get over, because we have over importance and over
Yes.
evaluated the hell out of everything, right?
Yes.
So once you can really feel the presence of that thing, whatever level it stands, right? Like you might not have money right now, but if you could say to yourself, you know what? Okay, I don't have the 401k that everybody else in my age range has, and I don't have the exact levels of wealth that I, have thought that I needed for myself, but I don't have any debt. And when I turn on the faucet, running water comes out, right? I mean, little things like that you could focus on that, for a lot of people, running clean water in a house, this is a huge luxury that so many take for granted, right? But if you can focus on what you feel wealthy about right now and lower the levels of importance on the ideals of wealth that your environment has sort of programmed you with, this becomes breeding ground for more wealth. This is where wealth is generated with outer intention. And I know, a lot of people will say, well, how? Like, how does that happen? And the ways of the world are very mysterious, right? We see just a fraction of the infinite possibilities and different ways in which something can materialize. But if you can feel gratitude for whatever it is you have in this moment right now, this is when that repellent sort of dissipates, and outer intention will start getting through that space, right, that the repellent had filled previously, and outer intention will start sort of flowing up to you with different ways that you can materialize something higher and better for yourself. And this is exactly what I've done. And I know it sounds a little complex as I'm explaining it, especially if it's a new way of thinking, a new direction of thinking for you. But it's like riding a bike. Once you're up on that bike, it becomes very, very easy. It's about reprogramming your mind to think in this new direction. And now it's very obvious for me and very apparent what is inner intention and what is outer intention. And when I'm repelling what it is I'm desiring and when I'm actually attracting it. And this co-creation that occurs with my external environment when I've tapped into a way to getting something that I want in this way, and what I can do to facilitate the growth of that thing on my end and allow my world to do what it needs to do. And then I get the thing and I'm not exhausted afterwards. So I have the ability to materialize something yet again. And this is how I'm growing my net worth. This is how I'm connecting with a community of people that I love and adore and who love and adore me. I have more love than I could ever imagine that I would have in my life, and everything in between. I'm doing it with this new mode, the outer intention mode, and acknowledging when I'm using inner intention and catching myself and staying dedicated to working in this new way, which is giving me much bigger and better gains that I could ever gain with inner intention.
Excellent. Well, and there's something I just want to harken back to our last conversation, and maybe we can have a more in-depth conversation on this at some point. One thing that's been really helpful for me in kind of the mind game of this whole thing, because sometimes it really is finding a new game to play with your mind to give you a different way of accessing something, is the whole idea that there's these other lifelines or timelines. I've talked about it with another guest as terms of timelines in which what you desire already exists.
Yes.
And instead of trying to focus on where it's not in your current reality, to just imagine, well, in which reality does this already exist and what does it already feel like? So that
Yes.
it's not trying to imagine something that you don't have in the reality that you're in now. It's like, oh, okay, so in this other reality, I'm happily married, or I have, a bank account with 6 figures or whatever. And it's easier to tap into the feeling of that and the reality of that and the experience of that than I have found, than it is to try to manufacture a feeling or resonance in this timeline that I have not yet experienced. So I found that as a little shortcut for myself. It's just a little game you play. We all played these little games with ourselves. So something to do while you're taking a shower or something.
That's a good way of looking at it. What we love in the transurfing modality is this statement that's made in the beginning section, alternative space of the book.
Mm-hmm.
It's this idea that there's evidence to support all theories,
Yes.
right? That
Mm-hmm.
that nobody's wrong, right? So
Right.
people that are politically arguing with each other, or religious
Yeah.
and all these different conflicts that happen, everybody is actually right, because there is evidence to support all theories, and particular group of people or a person that has a stance on something political, religious, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
they're simply gathering the evidence from their external environment to
Right.
support that theory, right? So getting
Yes.
into the idea of so can I imagine a reality,
Mm-hmm.
a parallel reality where I'm happily married or I have 6 figures in the bank?
Mm-hmm.
So adopting that theory for yourself on your current lifeline or timeline,
Mm-hmm.
however you want to put it, what happens is you suddenly open yourself up to evidence around you to support that theory. So if I say to
Yes.
myself, there's another version of reality where I have 6 figures in the bank, so then all of a sudden this new theory that I've created for myself becomes
Mm-hmm.
real. And then my world will present to me evidence that if I have the awareness to see it, I can pull it to support that theory. And it's
Yes.
in this movement, it's in this action that I actually transfer over to that version of reality in real
Mm-hmm.
life. I actually materialize that version of reality. So again, getting back to the original starting point of our conversation, this is the difference between law of attraction. I want to manifest something on my current lifeline. Current circumstances as they currently stand do not support the presence of that thing. Otherwise, it would be there.
Right.
It's about moving yourself to that variation of reality in mind,
Mm-hmm.
body, and heart and thought, transferring yourself over to that version of reality where the presence of that thing exists. And it starts with acknowledging that that version of reality does in fact exist and adopting that
Yes.
new theory for yourself. And it's in this that then your world goes about helping you out with outer intention to fulfill that work. So that's kind of
Perfect. Yes. I mean, that's a great way to say it, and to wrap all that back up in a nice bow for people. So, I'm just going to move us through this final little piece, and hopefully we can have another conversation soon and tackle some of the other ideas
Yes.
that are messing people up, and how it could be so much easier. So you can find Renée Garcia and Transurfing links on conversationsfromtheedge.net. I've got the YouTube and the Facebook and the Instagram and the transurfing.us and the teachable courses and all that stuff on there. So you can find them there. Where would the first place you would point people to? If it was me, I would point them to the YouTube, because I have found that to be extraordinary under Transurfing TV. Just an enormous body of information.
Yeah. Yeah. YouTube is a great place to start if you're into watching some videos. Or you could come into the Facebook group, and pinned to the top of the Facebook group is all the relevant links to everything. But we're expanding. We've got a lot of different options for people, and it's kind of whatever you fancy: videos, taking the course, talking with others that have had amazing results with applying this knowledge. It's all there. There is a big, vast, 6 years of every single day. There's enough there to keep you going for a while if you have interest in diving in, that's for sure.
Well, and I can't imagine anybody who's gotten this far in our conversations not having a huge interest. So check those things out and stay tuned. And Renée and I will talk again soon. Thank you so much for being on. It's just great talking with you. You're a lot of fun to talk with.
Thank you, Christine. I'm so happy that you've had me on. I'm more than happy to have another conversation with you. I definitely think that these in-depth looks at some concepts in this manner are, there's a lot of value there for people. And I'm happy you're seeing results with using this stuff in your own life too. It's
absolutely
really a nice experience to talk with a podcast host that's actually using the modality.
Imagine that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll talk again soon. Thanks again.
Thank you, Christine.
This is your host, Christine Madera. I hope you've enjoyed this conversation from the edge of consciousness. You can find all our conversations at conversationsfromtheedge.net. You'll also find links to schedule a private conversation with me or any of my friends, as well as tools to help you expand your own consciousness and explore what's possible for you outside the boundaries of your current perceptions. Feel free to use this podcast to start your own conversation by sharing it with friends, on social media, in your blog, or even in your own podcast. And as always, live the adventure of pushing your own edge. It's the most amazing adventure there is.